This all started about 3 months ago. I'd been going to this gym called Iron Core for maybe 6 months at that point. Nothing fancy, just your typical neighborhood gym with rusty equipment and that weird smell that never goes away no matter how much they clean, but it was cheap and close to my apartment, so whatever. I'm not some fitness freak or anything. I just go because my doctor told me I needed to start exercising after my last checkup. High blood pressure runs in my family, and I'd rather not drop dead at 35, you know? So I'd go there around 7 p.m. most weekdays, do my thing for an hour, then head home to my sad frozen dinners. That's when I first noticed Chris. He was this tall, lean guy, probably in his early 30s like me. Always wore the same black tank top and grey shorts. Had this really short buzzed hair and these pale blue eyes that were, I don't know how to describe them. Intense, I guess. But not in a scary way. More like he was really focused on whatever he was doing. The thing about Chris was that he had perfect form. Like, absolutely perfect. I'd been watching YouTube videos trying to figure out proper deadlift technique, and this guy looked like he could teach the classes. Every rep was identical. Every movement was controlled and precise. It was actually kind of mesmerizing to watch. We'd nod at each other sometimes when we were using nearby equipment. You know how it is at the gym. People develop this weird, unspoken respect for each other's space and routine. He always seemed to be working out the same time as me, which made sense. Most people are creatures of habit with their gym schedules. The first time we actually talked was on a Tuesday night in late February. I was struggling with bench press, trying to push myself to add more weight, but not confident I could handle it alone. Chris was doing cable rows about 10 feet away, and during his rest period, he walked over. "Need a spot?" he asked. His voice was quiet, kind of raspy, like he didn't talk much. "Yeah, that'd be great," I said. "I'm not sure I can handle this weight." He moved behind the bench and got into position. "What's your max?" "Honestly, I have no idea. I've only been doing this seriously for a few months." He nodded. "Better to be safe. Go ahead." So I started my set, and having him there gave me this weird confidence boost. I managed 8 reps when I probably would have struggled with 5 on my own. When I racked the weight, I sat up and he was already walking back to his station. "Thanks, man. I'm Jake, by the way." "Chris," he said, not turning around. That was it for that night, but it broke the ice, I guess. Over the next few weeks, we started spotting each other more regularly. It was convenient. We were both there at the same time anyway, and it's always safer to have someone around when you're lifting heavy. Chris barely talked, but when he did, it was usually helpful advice about form or technique. The guy clearly knew what he was doing. He'd point out little things I was doing wrong, like how I was arching my back too much during bench press, or how my grip was too wide for shoulder press, always in this quiet, matter-of-fact way, never condescending or anything. After about 3 weeks of this routine, Chris did something that surprised me. "You want to grab a protein shake after?" he asked, as we were both wrapping up our workouts one Thursday night. I was honestly a little caught off guard. He'd seemed like such a loner, but I figured why not? I didn't have any friends at the gym, and it might be nice to actually have someone to talk to about workout stuff. "Sure," I said. "There's that smoothie place next door, right?" "Yeah, meet you outside in 5? The smoothie place was one of those trendy health spots with way too many options, and everything cost $12. Chris ordered some complicated green thing with spinach and protein powder. I just got a basic chocolate peanut butter shake. We sat at one of those high tables by the window. The lighting was dim, and I remember thinking Chris looked even more pale than usual under those yellow bulbs. "So what got you into lifting?" I asked, trying to make conversation. "Been doing it for years," he said, stirring his shake with the straw. "Helps me focus." "Focus on what?" He looked up at me for a second, then back down at his drink. "Just life stuff. Work. You know, what kind of work do you do?" "Network security." He took a sip. "Pretty boring." I tried to keep the conversation going, but Chris wasn't exactly chatty. He'd answer my questions with these short, vague responses, and then we'd sit in silence. It wasn't uncomfortable exactly, but it wasn't easy either. Still, When we were getting ready to leave, he said, "Same time tomorrow? For the workout?" "Yeah, and maybe we can come back here after if you want." I said sure, and that became our routine. Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday. We'd work out together, then grab shakes and sit in that dimly lit smoothie place for maybe 20 minutes. Chris slowly started opening up a little more. He told me he lived alone, had been in the city for about 2 years, didn't really have many friends. I felt kind of bad for the guy, to be honest. He seemed lonely, and I wasn't exactly drowning in social connections myself, so it was nice to have someone to hang out with, even if our conversations were pretty surface level. This went on for about a month. We developed this comfortable rhythm. Chris would always arrive at the gym exactly at 7:15 p.m. I'd usually get there around 7:10. We'd do our own warm-ups, then spend the next hour working out in the same general area, spotting each other when needed. He was incredibly consistent. Same exercises, same order, same rest periods. I started to notice he had this thing where he'd check his watch between every set, not just glance at it. He'd hold his wrist up and stare at it for like 5 seconds, then put his arm down and continue. Another weird thing, Chris never seemed to sweat much. I'd be dripping after 30 minutes, but he'd finish an hour-and-a-half workout looking barely affected. His tank top would have maybe a small damp spot, but that was it. I figured he was just in way better shape than me. The protein shake conversations got a little more personal over time. He told me he'd moved here from somewhere in Ohio, though he was vague about where exactly. He'd ask me about my job. I work in accounting for a small firm downtown. Pretty boring stuff, but Chris seemed genuinely interested in the details. Actually, now that I think about it, he was maybe a little too interested. He'd ask me specific questions about my schedule, what time I got to work, what time I left, which route I took home. At the time, I just thought he was making conversation, but looking back. Anyway, this brings me to what happened 3 weeks ago. The thing that's been keeping me up at night and making me question everything. It was a Friday night. We'd had our usual workout, grabbed our shakes, talked for a bit. Nothing seemed different or unusual. Chris was maybe a little quieter than normal, but honestly, quiet was normal for him. When we were leaving, he said something that struck me as odd. "Have a good weekend, Jake. I'll see you Monday." It was the way he said it, like he was sure he'd see me Monday, not "I'll probably see you Monday" or "maybe I'll see you Monday." Just this definitive statement. But whatever. I went home, ordered some Chinese food, watched Netflix until I fell asleep on the couch. Pretty typical Friday night for me. Saturday morning, I woke up around 9 a.m. with a crick in my neck from sleeping weird on the sofa. My phone was on the coffee table, and I noticed I had a missed call from around 11:30 p.m. the night before. Unknown number with a local area code. There was a voicemail. I almost deleted it without listening. I get spam calls all the time, and usually the voicemails are just dead air or those robotic messages about my car's extended warranty. But something made me play it. What I heard, I still can't really explain it. It was audio from our workout that night. Crystal clear audio. I could hear the background noise of the gym, the clanking of weights, the hum of the ventilation system, that annoying pop music they always play, and I could hear me and Chris talking. "How many more sets you got left?" That was my voice. "Just 2 more. Chris's voice unmistakable. "Cool, I'm gonna do some cardio after this. The treadmills by the window are better, less wobbly." "Yeah, I usually use the ones by the free weights." "Trust me, the ones by the window." I remember this exact conversation. It happened while we were both doing shoulder exercises, maybe around 8:15 p.m. But how was it on my voicemail, and who recorded it? The audio went on for almost 3 minutes, just random snippets of our conversation, the sounds of us working out, Chris giving me advice about my form, all of it perfectly clear, like someone had been standing right next to us with a recording device. But here's the thing that really freaked me out. I never gave Chris my phone number. We'd been hanging out for over a month, and phone numbers had literally never come up. We always just met at the gym at the same time. There was never a need to call or text each other. So how did someone get a recording of us talking? And how did they get my number to leave it as a voicemail? I must have played that message 10 times that Saturday morning, trying to figure out what the hell was going on. Was it some kind of prank? Did Chris record our conversation somehow and then, what, hire someone to call me? That didn't make any sense. Or maybe the gym had security cameras with audio and someone hacked into them. But why would they send me a random recording of me working out? I couldn't stop thinking about it all weekend. By Sunday night, I'd convinced myself that there had to be some logical explanation. Maybe it was a crossed wire or some kind of technical glitch. Maybe the call wasn't even meant for me. But I couldn't shake this uncomfortable feeling in my stomach. Monday night came, and I almost didn't go to the gym. I sat in my apartment for 20 minutes, debating whether I was overreacting. Finally, I decided I was being ridiculous and headed over. Chris was there, same as always. Same black tank top, same routine, same time. He nodded when he saw me, just like every other night. We worked out together like nothing had happened. He spotted me on bench press. I helped him with some heavy deadlifts. We went to the smoothie place after, sat at our usual table. I kept waiting for him to say something about the phone call or give me some indication that he knew what I was talking about, but he acted completely normal. Finally, I decided to just ask him directly. "Hey Chris, this is gonna sound weird, but you don't have my phone number, do you?" He looked up from his shake. "No, why?" "I got this strange voicemail over the weekend, just wondering if maybe you'd tried to call me for some reason." "What kind of voicemail?" I hesitated. How do you explain something like this without sounding crazy? It sounded like a recording from the gym, from Friday night when we were working out. Chris stared at me for a long moment. His pale blue eyes didn't blink. "That's weird," he said finally. "Yeah, really weird. Maybe someone's messing with you. Maybe." We sat in silence for a few minutes after that. Chris finished his shake and said he had to get going. We walked out together, and he said his usual, "See you tomorrow." But as I was getting into my car, I looked back and saw him standing under the streetlight in front of the smoothie place, just standing there watching me. I waved, but he didn't wave back. He just stood there until I drove away. That was 3 weeks ago, and things have only gotten weirder since then. So, after that first voicemail, I tried to convince myself it was just some random glitch, you know? Like, maybe the gym's security system got hacked, or someone was playing a prank on random people. I mean, that had to be it, right? But then, Tuesday night happened. I got to the gym at my usual time. Chris was already there, doing his warm-up stretches by the windows. Same routine as always, same black tank top, same pale, focused expression. We worked out together like normal. Nothing seemed off. He spotted me on incline bench. I helped him with his lat pull-downs, the usual stuff. But here's what I noticed, and I swear I'm not making this up. Chris kept checking his phone, like constantly. Between every single set, he'd pull out this old flip phone. Yeah, a flip phone in 2025. And he'd stare at the screen for exactly 5 seconds. Then he'd close it and put it back in his pocket. Now, I'd been working out with this guy for almost 2 months, and I'd never seen him use a phone before. Never. He was always completely focused on his workout. So why was he suddenly glued to this ancient piece of technology? I tried to get a look at what he was doing, but he was careful about it. He'd turn away from me whenever he checked it, like he didn't want me to see the screen. After our workout, we went to the smoothie place as usual. Chris ordered his green spinach thing. I got my chocolate peanut butter. We sat at our regular table by the window. That's when I decided to test something. "So," I said, trying to sound casual, "I've been thinking about switching up my routine, maybe doing morning workouts instead of evenings." Chris looked up from his drink. Those pale blue eyes locked onto mine. "Morning workouts?" he said slowly. "Yeah. I read somewhere that your metabolism is higher in the morning. Might be more effective." "What time in the morning?" There it was. That question. Not, "Oh, that's interesting," or "I prefer evenings myself." Just, "What time in the morning?" Like he needed to know. like it was important. I don't know, I said, watching his face carefully. Maybe 6 a.m. before work. Chris stared at me for what felt like forever. His jaw clenched slightly. Then he forced this weird, tight smile. That's pretty early, he said. Yeah, it would be an adjustment. You should stick with evenings, he said quickly. Evenings work better for your schedule. How did he know what worked better for my schedule? I mean, sure, we'd talked about my job a few times, but I'd never told him I couldn't do morning workouts. Hell, I'd never even mentioned preferring evenings. The conversation died after that. We finished our shakes in awkward silence. When we were leaving, Chris walked me to my car, which was weird because he'd never done that before. See you Thursday, he said as I unlocked my door. Yeah, see you Thursday. But as I was driving home, I kept checking my rearview mirror, and I swear I saw the same pair of headlights behind me for most of the drive. They stayed about 3 cars back, making the same turns I made. It wasn't until I pulled into my apartment complex that they disappeared. Probably just a coincidence, right? People live in the same neighborhoods. They take the same routes home. Thursday came, and I almost didn't go to the gym. I sat in my apartment, staring at my workout clothes, trying to decide if I was being paranoid. But I'd been going to that gym for months. It was part of my routine, and I didn't want to let some weird voicemails and strange coincidences ruin that for me. So I went. Chris was there, same as always, but something was different. He seemed, I don't know, more intense, more focused on me specifically. During our workout, I caught him watching me when he thought I wasn't looking, not just glancing over like you normally would with a workout partner, really watching, studying me, like he was memorizing every movement I made. And then there was the water fountain incident. I went to get a drink between sets, and my phone fell out of my pocket. It clattered across the floor and ended up under one of the weight benches. When I crawled under to get it, I noticed something weird. There was a small black device taped to the underside of the bench, about the size of a quarter, with a tiny LED light that was blinking red. It looked like some kind of recording device. I stared at it for maybe 10 seconds, my heart pounding. Then I heard footsteps approaching. You okay under there? Chris's voice. I grabbed my phone and slid out quickly. Yeah, just dropped my phone. Careful, he said. Don't want you getting hurt. But he was staring at me with this strange expression, like he knew exactly what I'd seen under that bench. We finished our workout in silence. No protein shakes that night. Chris said he had to get home early. As I was leaving the gym, I made a decision. I went back inside, told the front desk guy I'd left something behind, and headed straight for that weight bench. The device was gone, just gone, like it had never been there at all. That night, I got home around 9:30 p.m. I made myself a sandwich, tried to watch some TV, but I couldn't concentrate. I kept thinking about that little black device, about Chris watching me, about those headlights following me home. At 11:47 p.m., my phone rang. Unknown number again. I let it go to voicemail. 20 minutes later, I finally worked up the courage to listen to it. This time, it wasn't just audio from the gym. It was audio from inside my apartment. My voice, talking to myself while I made that sandwich. God, I'm getting paranoid. This is ridiculous. The sound of my TV in the background. The sound of my footsteps walking from the kitchen to the living room. 3 minutes of audio from inside my own home. How is that even possible? I've been sitting here for the past hour, trying to figure out what to do. I've checked every room in my apartment twice, looked for cameras, recording devices, anything. I can't find anything unusual. But someone was listening to me tonight, in my own home. And I'm starting to think Chris knows exactly who that someone is. I didn't go to the gym Friday night. I couldn't. I couldn't face Chris knowing what I knew, knowing that somehow he was involved in this. Instead, I stayed home, ordered pizza, triple-checked all my locks, drew all the curtains. I even put tape over my laptop camera, just in case. But around 7:30 p.m., right around the time I usually got to the gym, My phone started buzzing. Text messages from unknown numbers. Where are you? You missed your workout. This isn't like you, Jake. Are you feeling okay? One after another. Different numbers, but they all knew my name. They all knew my routine. I turned my phone off, just powered it down completely. But then I started hearing things. Footsteps in the hallway outside my apartment. Slow, deliberate footsteps that would stop right in front of my door. I looked through the peephole, but the hallway was empty every single time. Saturday morning, I turned my phone back on. 17 missed calls, all from different numbers, and 12 voicemails. I almost didn't listen to them, but I had to know. The first one was Chris's voice. Jake, where were you last night? I waited for you. But here's the thing. I never gave Chris my number. Remember? We established that. So how was he calling me? The second voicemail was also Chris. I'm worried about you, man. This isn't like you to just disappear. Third voicemail. Jake, please call me back. I think someone might be messing with you. Wait, what? I played that one again. I think someone might be messing with you. Someone might be messing with me. Chris was the one who had access to recordings of our conversations. Chris was the one acting strange. Chris was the one with the mysterious flip phone. Unless Chris wasn't the one behind this. The fourth voicemail made my blood run cold. Jake, listen to me very carefully. Do not go to the gym tonight. Something is wrong. I can't explain over the phone, but I think we're both in danger. That was definitely Chris's voice, but he sounded scared, really scared. The rest of the voicemails were similar. Chris sounding increasingly panicked, begging me to call him back, telling me not to go to the gym, warning me about something. I sat there for maybe an hour trying to process this. If Chris wasn't behind the recordings, then who was? And why were they targeting both of us? Finally, I decided to call one of the numbers back, the most recent one. It rang twice, then Chris answered. Jake, Jesus, where have you been? Chris, what the hell is going on? I don't know, man, but someone's been watching us, recording us. I think they've been doing it for weeks. How do you know? Because I've been getting the same voicemails you have. Audio from the gym, audio from inside my apartment. My stomach dropped. You're getting them too? Started about a month ago, right around the time we became friends. There was something in the way he said friends, like it was in quotes, like he wasn't sure that's what we actually were. Chris, I need to ask you something. That flip phone you've been using. What flip phone? At the gym, you've been checking this old flip phone between sets. Silence on the other end. Jake, I don't own a flip phone. I've never owned a flip phone. The room started spinning. If Chris didn't have a flip phone, then who was I seeing check that device? Who was pretending to be Chris? We need to meet, I said. Somewhere public, not the gym. The coffee shop on 5th Street. You know the one? Yeah, when? Now, right now. I threw on some clothes and drove to the coffee shop, checking my rearview mirror constantly. No headlights following me this time, but that almost made it worse. Like whoever was watching had gotten better at hiding. Chris was already there when I arrived, sitting in the back corner, wearing a hoodie with the hood up. He looked different, thinner, more tired. Jake, he said as I sat down, I think someone's been impersonating me. What do you mean? The recordings, the voicemails. Someone's been making them look like they're coming from me. But Jake. He leaned forward, his pale eyes wide with fear. I haven't been to the gym in 2 weeks. What? I stopped going after I started getting the recordings. I was scared. I thought you were behind it. My hands started shaking. If you haven't been to the gym, then who have I been working out with? Chris stared at me across the table. That's what we need to figure out. I'm 28, live alone in a 1-bedroom apartment in Portland. Nothing fancy, just your typical millennial trying to make rent every month. I work in IT support. Basically, I fix computers all day and come home to my quiet little space. I've lived here for 3 years now. Know every creak in the floorboards, Every way the light hits the kitchen counter in the morning. Every sound my upstairs neighbor makes when she's doing yoga at 6 a.m. About a month ago, I decided to try hosting people through this couchsurfing app. I know what you're thinking. Why would I let strangers sleep in my apartment? Honestly, I was just lonely, working from home since COVID, barely seeing people except for grocery runs and the occasional awkward small talk with my landlord. The extra money didn't hurt either. Rent's been killing me lately. So I made a profile, posted some pictures of my living room, wrote a little description about being a chill host in a quiet neighborhood. Nothing too detailed, just the basics. Within a few days, I got my first request. His name was Leo. Profile said he was 31, traveling for work. Needed a place for 2 nights. His photos looked normal. Clean-cut guy. Brown hair, wearing a button-down shirt in one picture, hiking boots in another. Had good reviews from other hosts. People said he was respectful and easygoing and left the place cleaner than he found it. I figured, why not? 2 nights. What could go wrong? Leo showed up on a Tuesday evening around 7 p.m. I remember the exact time because I was heating up leftover Chinese food and Jeopardy was just starting. He knocked, and when I opened the door, he looked exactly like his photos, maybe a little taller than I expected. He was carrying this black backpack, one of those expensive hiking ones with all the straps and pockets. "You must be Sarah," he said. His voice was normal. Not too deep, not too high, just pleasant, I guess. He smiled when he talked, had nice teeth. "That's me," I said, stepping back to let him in. "You made good time from the airport." "Actually drove up from California," he said, setting his backpack down by the door. Very carefully, like he was worried about scratching my floor or something. "Road trip." I showed him around. Didn't take long. The place is tiny. Living room where he'd be sleeping on my pull-out couch, kitchen, bathroom, and I pointed toward my bedroom door. "That's my room. I usually go to bed around 10 or 11, but don't worry about noise or anything. These walls are pretty thick." He nodded at everything I said, asked polite questions. "Is it okay if I use the kitchen in the morning? Where should I put my toiletries? Do you mind if I take a shower before bed?" All totally normal stuff that first night. Nothing weird happened. I made us both some tea. We sat on the couch and chatted for maybe an hour. He told me he was in town for some consulting work, something with databases. I didn't really understand what he did, but he seemed to know his stuff. Asked me about my job. Seemed genuinely interested when I complained about having to explain to people why turning their computer off and on again actually works. He was funny. Made jokes about the terrible hotel coffee he'd been drinking for weeks, complimented my apartment, said it had good energy, asked if I'd lived here long, if I liked the neighborhood, normal small talk stuff. Around 10:30, I said I was heading to bed. He thanked me again for letting him stay, said he'd probably be up early and would try to be quiet. I went to my room, locked the door, which I always do anyway, and fell asleep watching Netflix on my laptop. I woke up the next morning to the smell of coffee. Good coffee, not the cheap stuff I usually buy. I came out of my room and Leo was sitting at my kitchen table, already dressed, reading something on his phone. "Morning," he said, looking up with a smile. "Hope you don't mind. I picked up some coffee beans yesterday. Thought I'd make a pot to share." The kitchen was spotless, cleaner than I'd left it. He'd even wiped down the counters and organized the dish towel that's usually just thrown over the sink. "You didn't have to do that," I said, but honestly, it was nice. "When's the last time someone made me coffee in my own kitchen?" We sat and drank coffee together. He asked if I had any recommendations for lunch places nearby. I told him about this sandwich shop I like, gave him directions. He wrote everything down in this little notebook, not on his phone, an actual paper notebook with a pen. Something about that struck me as old-fashioned, but in a good way. The second day was more of the same. He left in the morning, came back in the evening with takeout from the sandwich place. insisted on sharing it with me as a thank you. We watched a movie, some action thing on Netflix. He didn't hog the remote, didn't put his feet up on my coffee table, didn't leave crumbs on the couch. Honestly, he was probably the most considerate houseguest I'd ever had. Wednesday morning, his last day. I woke up and he was already gone. Left a note on the kitchen counter thanking me for my hospitality. $20 cash, even though I'd only asked for 15 per night. And my place was immaculate. I'm talking hospital clean. He'd even arranged my throw pillows in a way that looked better than how I usually have them. I felt good about the whole experience, posted a positive review for him right away. Leo was the perfect guest, respectful, clean, and friendly, would definitely host again. He left me a 5-star review too. Sarah is a wonderful host, beautiful apartment, great location, and she made me feel very welcome. Highly recommend. That was it, end of story, or so I thought. For about a week after Leo left, everything was normal. I went back to my routine, work, Netflix, ordering too much takeout. But then, I started noticing things. Small things, stupid things, things that probably don't mean anything. Like my coffee mug. I have this one mug I use every morning. It's blue with a chip on the handle, and I always leave it in the same spot on the counter next to the coffee maker. Always. It's been in that exact spot for 3 years. But last Thursday morning, it was on the other side of the sink. Not dirty, just moved. I stared at it for a long time, trying to remember if I'd put it there. Maybe I'd been distracted the night before. Maybe I'd moved it while cleaning and forgot. I moved it back to its usual spot and didn't think about it again. Until Friday, when I came home from work, my living room felt different. Not obviously different. All my stuff was there. Nothing was missing or broken or obviously out of place. But the throw pillows, the ones Leo had arranged so nicely, they were back to how I usually have them. Except not quite. I have 3 pillows on my couch, 1 big square one, and 2 smaller rectangular ones. I always put the big one in the corner, and the 2 small ones kind of leaning against it. But when I came home Friday, the big pillow was in the middle of the couch, and the 2 small ones were on either side. It looked neat, intentional, like someone had been sitting on my couch and had carefully arranged the pillows around themselves. But that was crazy, right? I live alone. I lock my door when I leave. There's no way someone could get in. I moved the pillows back to how I like them and tried to forget about it. Saturday morning, the coffee mug was moved again. This time it was inside the microwave, clean, but just sitting there. I don't use my microwave for mugs, ever. I heat water in a kettle. I stood in my kitchen for 10 minutes trying to think of any reason I would have put that mug in the microwave. I couldn't come up with one. That's when I started paying attention, really paying attention. My bathroom mirror. I always leave the medicine cabinet door slightly open, just a crack. It's been like that since I moved in. The hinge is loose and it won't stay completely closed. But Sunday evening, it was shut tight. The books on my nightstand, I keep them in a specific order. The one I'm currently reading on top, then a few others stacked underneath. Monday morning, they were in a different order. Still stacked, still neat, just rearranged. My kitchen sponge, I always keep it on the left side of the sink. Tuesday evening, it was on the right side. These things, individually, they're nothing. I could explain away each one. Memory plays tricks. People move things without thinking. Maybe I'm more absent-minded than I realized. But altogether, it started to feel like something else. Like someone was in my apartment, moving things, just slightly. Just enough to make me notice, but not enough to be sure. I started taking pictures. I know how that sounds, but I needed to know if I was going crazy or if this was really happening. Wednesday morning before work, I took a photo of my coffee mug in its usual spot. When I came home, it was gone. Not in the sink, not in the dishwasher, not on the counter. Just gone. I found it an hour later, in my bedroom, on my dresser, clean and dry, like someone had washed it and put it there on purpose. That night, I didn't sleep well. I kept listening for sounds, footsteps, doors opening, anything that might explain what was happening. But my apartment was quiet, just the usual sounds. The heater clicking on and off, my upstairs neighbor walking around, cars driving by outside. Thursday, I came home to find my shower curtain pulled all the way closed. I never do that, ever. I always leave it open so the tub can air dry. Friday, my bedroom curtains were drawn shut. I always leave them open during the day so my plants can get light. Saturday, I found my spare key, the one I hide under the fake rock by my front door. It was sitting on my kitchen counter. That's when I knew, for sure, that someone had been in my apartment. Someone had my key, someone had been coming and going, moving my things, watching me. But who? And why? And how long had this been going on? I thought about Leo. He was the only stranger who'd been in my apartment recently. But he'd seemed so normal, so polite, so harmless. His reviews were good, his profile looked legitimate, and he'd been nothing but respectful during his stay. But the timing, it was too much of a coincidence. This stuff started happening exactly 1 week after he left. I sat on my couch, the same couch where he'd slept, and tried to think. Had he made a copy of my key somehow? Had he noticed where I kept my spare? I'd never told him about it, but maybe he'd seen me use it, or maybe I was losing my mind. Maybe the stress of living alone and working from home was finally getting to me. Maybe I was moving things and forgetting. Maybe my memory was worse than I thought. But deep down, I knew that wasn't it. Someone was in my apartment. Someone was watching me. Someone was playing games with my head. And I was pretty sure I knew who it was. Sunday night, I decided to do something about it. I couldn't keep living like this, jumping every time I heard a noise, checking and rechecking my locks, taking pictures of my own stuff like some kind of lunatic. So I went to Home Depot, bought one of those door chains. You know, the kind that lets you open the door just a crack to see who's outside. And I bought new locks too, deadbolt, doorknob, the works. Spent all of Monday evening installing everything. I'm not exactly handy, but YouTube is a hell of a teacher. By 11 p.m., I had a completely new lock system, new keys, new everything. I felt safer, like I'd taken control of the situation. That night, I actually slept through the night for the first time in a week. Tuesday morning, I woke up feeling normal, made my coffee, checked my phone, got ready for work. Everything seemed fine. But when I came home Tuesday evening, my blood ran cold. The chain lock, the one I'd installed just the night before, was hanging loose, not broken, just unlatched, like someone had opened it from the inside. I stood in my doorway for 5 minutes, staring at that chain. There was no way, no possible way. I could have forgotten to latch it. I remembered doing it. I remembered the sound it made, that little metal click when the chain slid into place. But there it was, hanging loose. My hands were shaking as I walked through my apartment, looking for, I don't know, signs that someone had been here. Everything looked normal, nothing moved, nothing missing. But the feeling was there, that horrible feeling that someone had been in my space, breathing my air, touching my things. I called my sister that night, told her everything. She listened, but I could hear it in her voice. She thought I was having some kind of breakdown. Maybe you should talk to someone, she said. Like a professional. This level of anxiety, it's not normal, Sarah. I'm not anxious, I snapped. Someone is getting into my apartment. Have you called the police? I had thought about it, but what would I tell them? That my coffee mug keeps moving, that my pillows are arranged differently, that my chain lock was unlatched. They'd think I was crazy too. Wednesday, I stayed home from work, called in sick, which wasn't really a lie. I felt sick, sick with worry, sick with fear, sick with the horrible certainty that I was being watched. I spent the day going through everything, every drawer, every closet, every corner of my apartment, looking for what? Hidden cameras, listening devices, some kind of evidence that I wasn't losing my mind. I found nothing, but around 3 p.m., I was lying on my couch, staring at the ceiling, when I noticed something strange. The air vent above my TV, it looked different. Not obviously different, but the screws, the 4 screws that hold the vent cover in place, they looked newer, shinier, like they'd been removed and replaced recently. I got a chair, climbed up, and took a closer look. The screws were definitely different. They were the same size, same type, but the metal was brighter, not weathered like the rest of the hardware in my apartment. My heart was pounding as I found a screwdriver and carefully removed the vent cover. At first, I didn't see anything, just the dark opening of the air duct and the usual dust and debris you'd expect. But then, my fingers brushed against something that shouldn't have been there. Something small and hard and plastic. I pulled it out, and my world stopped. It was a camera lens, tiny, maybe the size of a dime, with a thin wire attached. I dropped it like it was on fire. It clattered to the floor, and I just stood there on my chair, staring down at this thing that had been watching me sleep, watching me eat, watching me do everything. How long had it been there? Days? Weeks? Had Leo installed it while he was staying here? Had he been watching me this whole time? I climbed down, picked up the lens with a tissue, and just held it. This tiny piece of technology that had violated my privacy in the worst possible way. That's when I started crying. Not just tears, but full-on sobbing. The kind of crying that comes from deep in your chest. The kind that hurts. Someone had been watching me, in my own home, in my safe space. I called the police, finally, told them everything about Leo, about the moved objects, about the chain lock, about the camera. 2 officers came to my apartment, a man and a woman. They were polite, professional, but I could see it in their eyes. They thought I was some paranoid woman who'd planted the camera herself for attention. They took the lens, said they'd have it analyzed, asked me questions about Leo, wrote down his information, took pictures of the vent. "We'll look into it," the female officer said as they were leaving. "But, ma'am, you might want to consider changing your locks again, and maybe talk to someone about the stress you've been under." After they left, I sat in my living room, staring at the empty vent above my TV. The camera was gone, but the feeling wasn't. The feeling that I was still being watched, that this wasn't over, that Leo, or whoever was doing this, was still out there, still planning, still watching. And now they knew that I knew. I didn't sleep that night, or the next night. I just sat on my couch, with all the lights on, watching the door, waiting for whatever was coming next. The police never called me back about the camera lens. It's been 2 weeks, and nothing. When I called them, they said they were still investigating, but I could hear it in the officer's voice. They'd already written me off as some crazy woman. So I decided to investigate myself. I started with Leo's profile on the couchsurfing app. Looked at it more carefully this time. Really studied his photos, his reviews, everything. The first thing I noticed, his profile was only 6 months old. For someone who claimed to travel for work all the time, that seemed odd. Most frequent travelers have profiles going back years. His photos looked professional, too professional, like headshots, not casual travel pics. And in every single photo, he was alone. No friends, no family, no candid shots, just Leo, always looking directly at the camera, always smiling that same pleasant smile. I reverse searched his photos on Google. Nothing. Which is weird, because most people's photos show up somewhere online these days. Social media, old dating profiles, something. But Leo's photos, They were ghosts. Then I started looking at his reviews more carefully. He had 15 5-star reviews, all from different hosts, all saying basically the same things. Respectful, clean, quiet, would host again. But when I looked at the dates, they were all clustered together. 3 reviews in March, 4 in April, 8 in May. Like he'd gone on some kind of hosting spree. I clicked on the profiles of the people who'd reviewed him. Sarah M. in Seattle, Jennifer K. in San Francisco, Amanda R. in Denver. All single women, all living alone, all around my age. My stomach started churning. I found Sarah M. on Facebook, sent her a message, asked if she remembered Leo, if anything weird had happened after he stayed with her. She replied within an hour. OMG, yes, she wrote. I thought I was going crazy. Things kept moving around my apartment for weeks after he left. I even found a weird USB device plugged into my router. Had to get my internet guy to remove it. Why are you asking? My hands were shaking as I typed back. Told her about the camera, about the moved objects, about everything. Her response made my blood run cold. You need to contact the others, all the women who hosted him. I think we're all victims of something. I spent the next 3 days tracking down every woman who'd left Leo a review. 8 of them responded. Every single one had the same story. Objects moved around their apartments. Strange feelings of being watched. Technology acting weird. And 3 others. 3 others had found hidden cameras. Jennifer in San Francisco found one in her bedroom smoke detector. Amanda in Denver found one behind her bathroom mirror. Rachel in Austin found one inside her laptop bag. We started a group chat, shared photos, compared experiences, and slowly, a pattern emerged. Leo targeted single women who lived alone, women in tech jobs, women who worked from home, women who might not notice small changes right away because their routines were flexible. He'd stay for 2 or 3 nights, always polite, always respectful, always the perfect guest. But while he was there, he was installing surveillance equipment, copying keys, learning our routines, mapping our lives. And then, after he left, he'd return, again and again, watching us, moving our things, playing psychological games. But why? What did he want? That's when Rachel sent us the link. She'd been digging deeper into Leo's identity, using facial recognition software from her job, and she'd found him. His real name wasn't Leo, it was Marcus Webb, and he had a criminal record. Breaking and entering, stalking, voyeurism. He'd been arrested 4 times in 3 different states, but never convicted. Always pleaded down to lesser charges. Always got probation. The last arrest was 8 months ago, right before his couchsurfing profile was created. We'd been targeted, hunted by someone who made a hobby, maybe even a living out of violating women's privacy. I haven't slept in my apartment since I found out. I'm staying at my sister's place, trying to figure out what to do next. The police are finally taking this seriously now that we have multiple victims and a real name. But Marcus Webb, or Leo, or whatever he calls himself, he's disappeared. His couchsurfing profile is gone. The phone number he gave me is disconnected. It's like he never existed. But I know he's out there, somewhere, probably already creating a new identity, a new profile, looking for his next victims. And the worst part? I keep thinking about that spare key, the one I found on my kitchen counter. I changed all my locks. But what if he made copies before I found it? What if he still has a way in? I don't think I'll ever feel safe in my own home again. And maybe that was the point all along. So, I work at this mid-sized insurance company. Nothing fancy, just your typical office building with cubicles and fluorescent lights and that weird carpet smell that every office seems to have. I've been there for about 3 years now, working in claims processing. It's boring work, but it pays the bills, you know? About 2 months ago, maybe it was late March? Yeah, late March. We got a new guy. His name is Ryan Martinez. He started in our department, got the cubicle right across from mine. And honestly, at first I thought he seemed pretty normal. Maybe even nice. Ryan's probably in his early 30s, maybe 32, 33. Hard to tell. He's got this really neat appearance, like really neat. His hair is always perfectly styled, not a strand out of place. His clothes are always pressed and clean. Nice button-down shirts, usually blue or white. Dark slacks that look expensive. Shiny black dress shoes that never seem to have a scuff on them. He carries this leather briefcase that looks like it cost more than my car payment. The thing is, Ryan's really quiet. He says good morning when he comes in. He nods and smiles when you make eye contact, but he doesn't really chat, you know? Most of us, we talk about the weather or what we watched on TV last night or complain about traffic. Normal office stuff, but Ryan just works. He sits at his desk, types on his computer, makes his phone calls in this really soft voice that you can barely hear, even though his cubicle is right across from mine. At lunch, most of us go to the break room or go out to grab something. Ryan brings his lunch every day, always the same thing from what I've seen. A sandwich in a plastic container, an apple, and a bottle of water. He eats at his desk while reading something on his phone. Never scrolls through social media like the rest of us. Just reads, with this really focused look on his face. I remember thinking it was kind of admirable, actually. Like, here's a guy who has his life together, you know? He's professional, he's punctual, he's polite. My supervisor, Carol, was always going on about how great Ryan was. Ryan's so dedicated, she'd say. Ryan never takes long breaks. Ryan's productivity numbers are excellent, and they were. Right from his first week, Ryan was processing more claims than people who'd been there for years. He never seemed to struggle with the system or ask questions about procedures. It was like he'd been doing the job forever. But here's where things start to get weird. It was about 3 weeks after Ryan started. I had to come in early that day because I'd fallen behind on some paperwork and Carol was breathing down my neck about deadlines. So I got to the office at like 6:30 in the morning. The building opens at 6 for the cleaning crew and security, but most employees don't start showing up until 7:30 or 8. I used my key card to get in through the main entrance. The lobby was dark except for those emergency lights they keep on all night. My footsteps echoed really loud on the tile floor. It's funny how different a place feels when it's empty, you know? Like, during the day, our office is full of people talking and phones ringing and the copy machine running. But early in the morning, it's just quiet, almost eerily quiet. I took the elevator up to the 4th floor where our department is. The hallway was dark, but I could see light coming from under the door to our office area. I figured maybe the cleaning crew was still working or security was doing their rounds. I swiped my card and pushed through the door. And that's when I saw him. Ryan was in the break room, just standing there, in front of the little TV we have mounted on the wall. Except the TV wasn't showing the morning news or anything normal. It was showing the security camera feed. Now, I should explain. Our company has security cameras all over the building. Hallways, parking lot, main entrances, that kind of thing. There's a monitor in the security office downstairs, and there's also this smaller monitor in the break room that shows a rotation of different camera feeds. Usually, nobody pays attention to it. It's just there. But Ryan was standing right in front of it, really close, like uncomfortably close. And he had the remote control in his hand. He was clicking through different camera feeds, one by one, slowly. The parking garage, click. The main lobby, click. The hallway on the 2nd floor, click. The elevator, click. I just stood there for a second, not sure what to say. He hadn't noticed me come in. He was completely focused on the screen, clicking through these camera feeds with this intense expression on his face. Not angry or anything, just concentrated, like he was looking for something specific. Finally, I cleared my throat. "Hey, Ryan." He turned around, and I swear, for just a split second, he looked startled, like really startled. His eyes went wide and he kind of took a step back, but then almost immediately, he smiled. That same pleasant smile he always has. "Oh, hi," he said. His voice was calm, friendly. "You're here early?" "Yeah, I have some catching up to do," I said. I nodded toward the TV. "What are you watching?" Ryan glanced back at the screen, then at me, still smiling. "Oh, this. I was just checking the feeds, making sure everything looks normal." "Checking the feeds," I repeated. Is that part of your job?" He laughed, a really light, casual laugh. No, I'm just curious about things, I guess. It's interesting to see, who comes and goes, who likes to stay late, who's always the first one here in the morning." The way he said it, I don't know how to explain it. It was perfectly innocent words, but something about his tone made my skin crawl. Like he was talking about more than just casual curiosity. "Oh," I said. I didn't really know what else to say. Ryan clicked the remote one more time, and the screen went back to the regular morning news. "Well," he said, setting the remote down on the counter, "I should get to my desk. Have a good day." And he just walked out of the break room, left me standing there, feeling confused and kind of unsettled. I got my coffee and went to my cubicle, trying to shake off the weird feeling. Maybe it was innocent, right? Maybe Ryan was just curious about the building. New employee, wants to familiarize himself with the security setup. That makes sense, doesn't it? But I couldn't stop thinking about what he'd said. Who likes to stay late? Why would he care who stays late? And the way he was standing so close to that monitor, clicking through the feeds so slowly, so deliberately. I tried to focus on my work, but I kept glancing over at Ryan's cubicle. He was there at his desk, typing away like always, looking completely normal and professional. Maybe I was overthinking things. Around 9 o'clock, more people started showing up. Jenny from accounting, Mike from customer service, Carol with her usual rushed morning energy. The office filled up with its normal sounds and activity, and I started to feel silly for being worried about Ryan watching the security cameras. But then, around 10:30, I noticed something else. I was working on a claim file when I heard Jenny talking to Mike near the copy machine. She was telling him about her weekend plans, something about going to her sister's house for a barbecue on Saturday. Just normal conversation stuff. But I saw Ryan. He had stopped typing. He was just sitting there, listening, not obviously eavesdropping or anything. He wasn't turned around or leaning toward them, but his hands were completely still on his keyboard, and I could tell he was paying attention to every word. When Jenny finished talking and went back to her desk, Ryan started typing again, like nothing had happened. I told myself it was probably nothing. People overhear conversations in offices all the time. It's not like he was being weird about it, except he was being weird about it. There was something about the way he'd gone completely still, completely focused on listening, that felt off. The rest of the day was normal. Ryan worked quietly, same as always. He ate his sandwich at his desk, same as always. He said goodbye at exactly 5 o'clock, same as always. But I couldn't shake the image of him standing in that break room, clicking through security camera feeds in the early morning darkness. And I couldn't forget the way he'd said, "Who likes to stay late?" That night, I found myself thinking about it more than I should have. It's not like Ryan had done anything actually wrong, right? Watching security cameras isn't illegal. Being curious about your coworkers isn't a crime. Maybe he was just awkward. Some people are awkward. But deep down, I had this feeling, this nagging, uncomfortable feeling that something wasn't quite right about Ryan Martinez. And that feeling, it was only going to get stronger. The next morning, I came in at my normal time. Around 7:45, Ryan was already at his desk, looking as neat and professional as ever. He smiled and nodded when I walked by. "Morning," he said. "Morning," I replied. But as I settled into my cubicle and started up my computer, I couldn't help but wonder, how early had Ryan gotten to the office that day? Had he been in the break room again, watching those security feeds? Had he been watching me walk through the parking lot, ride the elevator, swipe my keycard? The thought made me shiver, and that was just the beginning. Over the next few weeks, things got stranger. It started with small things, little comments that Ryan would make, comments that seemed innocent enough, but somehow they weren't. Like, one morning, Jenny came in looking tired. She'd been up all night with her baby who was teething. She mentioned it to Carol, just casual conversation while getting coffee. Later that day, around lunchtime, Ryan walked past Jenny's desk. He stopped, turned around, and said, "How's little Emma doing? Still having trouble sleeping?" Jenny looked up, surprised. "Oh, yeah, Wait, how did you know her name was Emma?" Ryan smiled. That same pleasant smile. "You mentioned it yesterday, I think. Or maybe it was earlier this week. I have a good memory for names. But here's the thing. I sit right next to Jenny. I hear pretty much everything she says, and I was absolutely certain she had never mentioned her daughter's name to anyone at work. Not around Ryan anyway." Jenny looked confused too. She kind of hesitated, then just said, "Oh, yeah, well, thanks for asking." Ryan nodded and walked away, but I saw Jenny watching him go, with this puzzled expression on her face. That same week, Mike from customer service was complaining about his car troubles. His transmission was acting up, making weird noises, probably going to cost him a fortune to fix. The next day, Ryan approaches Mike's desk. "Have you tried Johnson's Auto on 5th Street?" he asked. "They're really good with transmission problems. Fair prices, too." Mike blinked. Yeah, that's actually where I was thinking of taking it. But how did you know I needed transmission work?" Ryan shrugged. "Lucky guess. Your car's been making that grinding noise in the parking lot. Sounds like a transmission issue to me. Here's what bothered me about that. Ryan parks on the opposite side of the parking lot from Mike. There's no way he'd be close enough to hear Mike's car unless he was specifically listening for it. And then there was the thing with Carol. Carol's our supervisor, and she's pretty private about her personal life. Divorced, lives alone, doesn't really socialize with us outside of work. But one Friday, she seemed upset about something. She kept checking her phone, looking worried. Monday morning, Ryan stops by her office. I happened to be dropping off some paperwork, so I heard the whole conversation. "I hope everything worked out with your mother over the weekend," Ryan said. Carol looked up sharply. "What?" "Your mother," Ryan repeated. "You seemed worried about her on Friday. I hope she's feeling better." Carol stared at him for a long moment. I never mentioned my mother to you." Ryan's smile faltered. Just for a second. Then it was back. "Oh, maybe I misunderstood something. Sorry." He left, and I saw Carol sitting there, looking really unsettled. I started paying closer attention after that. Really close attention. I noticed that Ryan, he listens to everything. Every phone call, every conversation, every casual comment. But he does it so subtly. He never looks like he's eavesdropping. He just absorbs information. And somehow, he always knows things he shouldn't know. Like when Sarah from HR mentioned she was thinking about getting a gym membership. Ryan recommended a specific gym across town. When she asked how he knew about it, he said he used to live in that area, but according to his employee file, which I may have accidentally seen when Carol left it on the printer, Ryan's address has always been on the north side of town. Or when Dave from IT was having problems with his Wi-Fi at home, Ryan suggested a specific router model, not a popular one, not one you'd find in any store, a really obscure professional grade router that only someone with serious technical knowledge would know about. Dave asked him about it later, and Ryan just said he reads a lot of tech blogs. But the thing that really got to me, the thing that made me realize something was seriously wrong, happened on a Thursday afternoon. I was working late, trying to finish up some quarterly reports. Most people had gone home already. The office was quiet, almost empty. I needed to print something, so I walked over to the printer near Carol's office, and that's when I heard it. Ryan's voice, coming from Carol's office, but Carol had left an hour ago. I saw her pack up her things, say goodbye, walk out to the parking lot. I crept closer to the door, which was slightly open, and I could see Ryan sitting at Carol's desk, talking on her phone. "Yes, I understand the account has been overdrawn," he was saying. His voice was different, not his usual soft, polite tone, more confident, more authoritative. "This is regarding the automatic payment for, let me see, the mortgage on Elm Street." My blood went cold. Ryan was impersonating Carol, talking to her bank maybe, or her mortgage company. I backed away from the door, as quietly as I could. My heart was pounding so hard I thought he might hear it. I grabbed my stuff from my desk and got out of there as fast as possible. But as I was waiting for the elevator, I heard footsteps behind me, slow, deliberate footsteps. I turned around, and there was Ryan standing in the hallway, just watching me. "Working late?" he asked. That pleasant smile was back. "Yeah," I stammered. "Just finishing up some reports." "Me too," he said. "I like to stay late sometimes. It's peaceful when the office is empty. You can really focus." The elevator dinged. The doors opened. "Have a good evening," Ryan said. I got in the elevator, and as the doors closed, I saw him still standing there, still smiling, still watching. That night, I couldn't sleep. I kept thinking about what I'd seen. Ryan, in Carol's office, on her phone, talking about her mortgage. How did he know about Carol's mortgage? How did he get into her office? And why? Why was he impersonating her? I knew I should report it. Tell someone. But who would believe me? And what if I was wrong? What if there was some innocent explanation? But deep down, I knew there wasn't. Something was very, very wrong with Ryan Martinez. And I was starting to think we were all in danger. After that night, I couldn't just ignore it anymore. I started documenting things, writing down everything I noticed about Ryan, every weird comment, every impossible knowledge, every time he was somewhere he shouldn't be. And the more I wrote down, the more terrified I became. I decided to talk to Jim, our night security guard. Jim's been working here for like 15 years. He knows everything that goes on in this building. If anyone would have noticed something strange about Ryan, it would be Jim. I found him during his rounds, around 8:31 evening. I'd stayed late on purpose, told Carol I had some catching up to do. "Hey Jim," I said, trying to sound casual. "Can I ask you something?" Jim stopped, looked at me with those tired eyes of his. "Sure, kid. What's on your mind?" "That new guy, Ryan Martinez, in our department. Have you noticed anything weird about him?" Jim's expression changed, became more serious. "Why do you ask?" I've seen him doing some strange things, and I was wondering if you'd noticed anything too." Jim looked around, like he was making sure we were alone. Then he leaned closer. "That guy gives me the creeps," he whispered. "I've been working security for a long time, and I know when someone's up to no good." My heart started racing. "What do you mean?" "He stays late. Really late. Sometimes until midnight, 1 in the morning. Says he's working, but I've checked on him. Half the time, he's not at his desk." "Where is he?" Jim shrugged. "Walking around, different floors, different departments. Says he's exploring the building or getting familiar with the layout. But why would someone need to explore the accounting department at 11 p.m.? I felt sick. How long has this been going on? Since his second week here, maybe longer. And there's something else." Jim paused, looked around again. "I've seen him messing with doors, trying key cards that aren't his." "What do you mean?" "Like, he'll try his card on a door that he shouldn't have access to, and when it doesn't work, He'll try another card. Don't ask me where he gets them." My mouth went dry. "Other cards?" "Yeah, sometimes it almost looks like he's got a whole collection of them, different key cards, different access levels." I thought about Carol's office, how Ryan had been sitting at her desk, using her phone. How had he gotten in there? "Jim," I said slowly, do you think he's stolen key cards?" Jim nodded grimly. "That's exactly what I think, but I can't prove it. And management, they love this guy. He's their golden boy, perfect attendance, great performance reviews, never causes any problems. Except for the staying late and wandering around." "Right, but when I mentioned it to the day supervisor, she just said Ryan was dedicated and taking initiative to learn the company." I felt frustrated and scared. "So what do we do?" Jim sighed. "Keep your eyes open, document everything, and be careful around him." That conversation haunted me, but it also gave me an idea. If Ryan was staying late and wandering around, maybe I could catch him in the act, get some proof of what he was really doing. So the next Friday, I made my plan. I left the office at my normal time, 5 o'clock. But instead of going home, I drove to the McDonald's across the street. I sat in my car, watching the parking lot, waiting. Ryan's car was still there, a black sedan, always perfectly clean, parked in the same spot every day. I waited until about 8:30. Then I drove back to the office. I parked on the far side of the lot, where Ryan wouldn't see my car if he looked out the window. I used my key card to get into the building. The lobby was dimly lit, quiet except for the hum of the air conditioning. I took the elevator to the 3rd floor, instead of the 4th where our department is. I figured I could use the stairwell to peek into our floor, see what Ryan was up to. The 3rd floor was dark, empty. I made my way to the stairwell and climbed up one flight. The door to the 4th floor had a small window. I peered through it, and my heart almost stopped. Ryan was there, in the hallway, but he wasn't alone. He was talking to someone, a woman I didn't recognize. She was older, maybe in her 50s, wearing a business suit. They were standing near Carol's office, and Ryan was handing her something. A folder, a thick manila folder. The woman took the folder, opened it, started flipping through whatever was inside. She nodded, said something I couldn't hear, then handed Ryan what looked like money, cash, a thick envelope of cash. Ryan took the money, smiled, and shook the woman's hand. Then she left, just walked down the hallway, toward the elevator, like she owned the place. And Ryan went back into Carol's office. I stood there in that stairwell, shaking. What had I just witnessed? Who was that woman? What was in that folder? And why was Ryan being paid cash for whatever he was doing? I waited another few minutes. Then I saw the woman exit the building through the main entrance. She got into a car and drove away. I had to get out of there if Ryan caught me spying on him. I made my way back down to the 3rd floor, took the elevator to the lobby, and got out of the building as fast as I could. But as I was walking to my car, I heard footsteps behind me in the parking lot. I turned around, and there was Ryan. He'd followed me outside. "Hey," he called out, still smiling, always smiling. "I thought I saw your car earlier, working late again?" I tried to keep my voice steady. "Yeah, just had some things to finish up." "Me too," he said. He was walking closer, too close. "Funny how we keep running into each other after hours." "Yeah, funny." Ryan stopped, right next to my car. "You know, you should be careful. Staying so late by yourself. You never know who might be in the building." The way he said it, it wasn't a warning. It was a threat. I'll keep that in mind," I said. I got in my car, locked the doors, and drove away as fast as I could. In my rearview mirror, I could see Ryan, still standing in the parking lot, still watching, still smiling. And I knew, whatever Ryan was really doing at our company, it was much worse than I'd imagined.